Don't steal my shoe! My mama gave me them.
It's 1960, and the bustling city of Houston welcomes a new family to its sprawling streets. The Foreman clan arrives at their fixer-upper, a house so neglected it lacks even the most basic amenities. As night falls, a scene unfolds that will forever be etched in young George's memory. Gathered around a makeshift dinner table, four eager faces watch as their mother performs a small miracle, transforming a single hamburger into a feast for her brood. George's stomach growls in anticipation, his fingers itching to grab his morsel. But Mary, ever the voice of reason, halts her brother's hand with a gentle reminder to give thanks. With the last amen barely uttered, George inhales his portion, hunger still gnawing at his insides.
I'm so hungry, I could eat this table.
Mary, her heart as big as her appetite is small, secretly slips him half her share. Later, under cover of darkness, their mother's voice takes on a serious tone. George, she warns, another year behind in school isn't an option.
So you want to go to your new school in the morning, yeah?
The next day, George steps into a classroom where judgmental glances speak volumes. Eager to prove himself, he raises his hand to answer a question, but the teacher's gaze skips right over him, landing instead on Jason, whose polished shoes gleam like beacons of privilege. Lunchtime proves to be a cruel affair. While his classmates feast, George sits alone, his empty stomach a painful reminder of his circumstances. A bully, drunk on his own perceived superiority, dangles a scrap of bread before George like he's teasing a stray.
How about this nasty skin? You want it? Go get it.
In that moment, something snaps inside George. His fist connects with the bully's jaw, a satisfying crunch preceding the chaos that ensues. As he flees the scene, George reflects. Rage was my constant companion, my go-to solution for every problem. Fighting? It was the one thing I excelled at. Fast forward a few years, and we find George and his buddy, two street-smart teens looking for trouble outside a seedy bar. Their target? A stumbling drunk who seems ripe for the picking. But fate has other plans, as their would-be victim turns out to be an undercover cop. "Gotcha, boys," he slurs, his act dropping away as sirens wail in the distance. What follows is a heart-pounding chase through the streets of Houston. George, fueled by desperation and adrenaline, seeks refuge beneath a ramshackle house. As the K-9 unit closes in, he makes a split-second decision that would make even the most hardened criminal cringe, coating himself in sewage to mask his scent. Miraculously, it works. The police and their four-legged detective pass him by, none the wiser to the boy hiding in plain sight, cloaked in filth and fear. As George makes his way home, fate intervenes once more. A television in a shop window catches his eye, its flickering screen promising salvation in the form of Job Corps. Free food, drinks, and a chance at a real future. It seems too good to be true. With hope blooming in his chest for the first time in years, George rushes home to share the news with his mother. Her response is a mix of pride and caution. "If this is what you want, George," she says, her voice filled with a mother's love and worry, "then give it your all. No turning back, you hear me? This is your chance to finish what you start." George's journey takes an unexpected turn as he arrives at the Job Corps in California. At the gates, a guard lays down the law, but trouble's already brewing inside. No sooner does George set foot in the dorm than he's butting heads with Desmond over a bed. "It's just a bed, man," Desmond scoffs, but to George, it's another battle to be won. A bittersweet surprise awaits in George's duffel. Brand new Converse sneakers and a note from Mom. Desmond's envious gaze doesn't go unnoticed. In electrical class, George's struggles become a source of amusement for his peers. His menacing glare silences them, hinting at his usual problem-solving method. The next day, tension crackles between George and Desmond over a noisy record player. "Always this pissed off?" Desmond quips, but as they chat, an unlikely friendship begins to form. Desmond's invite to the chow hall brightens George's mood considerably. Excitement for his new kicks turns to dismay when George finds them missing. At lunch, Desmond reveals his clever cafeteria scheme. More brownies, less beans, showcasing his numerical prowess. Suddenly, George spots his stolen sneakers on another guy's feet. A chase ensues, ending with George nearly dangling the thief out a window. Doc intervenes just in time, breaking up the scuffle. Outside, George tries to explain his actions, his voice tinged with frustration and hurt. "My mother worked hard for those shoes," he pleads.
Don't steal my shoe! My mama gave me them shoes!
George's fate hangs in the balance as Doc drives them away from the chaos. In the car, Doc lays out two stark options: jail or home. "You've been a one-man wrecking crew," he chides, referencing George's trail of destruction. But as George pleads his case, desperation evident in his
Please.
voice, Doc's stern exterior cracks. Intrigued by George's raw power, Doc proposes an alternative, boxing. It's not just fighting, he explains. It's a sport with rules. George, eager for redemption, jumps at the chance. The next day, the gym becomes George's battleground. His first sparring session is a humbling experience. Desmond, ever the opportunist, turns the spectacle into a betting pool. George's aggression proves no match for technique, and he's quickly floored. Embarrassed laughter echoes through the gym, driving George to unleash his frustration on a punching bag, with startling results. In a quiet moment, Doc reassures George, painting a picture of progress and potential. 6 months ago, that guy was just like you, he reveals, igniting a spark of hope in George's eyes. Training begins in earnest. George grapples with footwork and coordination, while Doc emphasizes the mental game. Boxing is chess, not checkers, he insists. A bittersweet phone call home brings mixed emotions. George's excitement about boxing clashes with his mother's concerns. It's not fighting, it's a sport, he argues. But the call cuts short, leaving their disagreement unresolved. Weeks later, George faces his former nemesis again. This time, it's a different story. With a swift, powerful punch, George claims victory, leaving Doc astounded at his rapid improvement. In a quiet moment, Doc shares his own boxing history, 24 undefeated fights before trading one uniform for another. The cryptic statement hangs in the air, hinting at a deeper story yet to unfold. George's ambition burns bright as he shows Doc a magazine featuring Joe Frazier, boldly declaring his own championship dreams. Doc, both amused and impressed, gently steers George towards reality. The road to pro is long, he cautions, but George's impatience is palpable. When Doc mentions a 5-year timeline for Olympic readiness, George scoffs, "I'll be ancient by then."
But even if you train harder than any man has ever trained, there is no way that you can make it to the Olympics next year.
Fast forward to the following summer, and we witness a miracle. George, barely 19, and with just a year's training, faces off against a seasoned Soviet boxer. The odds are stacked against him, but back home, a nation holds its breath. His family, the Job Corps crew, and even his reluctant mother are glued to their screens. What unfolds is nothing short of extraordinary. George's fists fly with devastating precision, each blow defying the commentator's doubts. In a blur of sweat and determination, he clinches the gold. As George triumphantly raises the American flag, his siblings watch in awe. Their brother, now an Olympic champion. His mother's pride wrestles with her concern over the sport's violence. The next day, George struts through his old neighborhood, gold medal gleaming, but his victory lap is cut short by a former friend's bitter words. "You raised that flag while others bowed their heads in protest," the critic sneers, accusing George of betraying their cause. Stung and confused, George seeks solace with his mother. He pours out his frustration at being labeled a sellout. Her response is classic mom, offering food as comfort. "I'm not hungry," George mutters, prompting her playful shock. Strengthened by her unwavering support, George vows to silence his critics by claiming the championship belt. His mother's worry resurfaces.
You left here with nothing to your name, and you came back with gold.
George, his eyes drawn to a beautiful woman engrossed in a magazine. His own face stares back from the cover. Seizing the moment, he approaches. "Paula," she introduces herself, just as her flight is called. George fumbles for words, trying to secure her number. With a smirk, Paula flips the script.
Your footwork is better than your pickup game, George.
She requests his number instead, leaving him charmingly flustered. As she walks away, George mutters, "No, ma'am, you do not look like you wait by the phone." Back at the gym, George's world expands. Doc introduces his new team, Dick Sadler, the savvy promoter, and Archie Moore, a boxing legend. The air crackles with potential. George's journey to the championship unfolds like a montage of triumphs. Each fight brings him closer to his dream, his skills sharpening under watchful eyes. Paula re-enters the picture, their romance blooming alongside George's career. She becomes his constant, cheering from ringside as his record climbs to an impressive 22-0. Their love story culminates in a simple, heartfelt exchange.
"Do you take this woman to be your wife?"
You bet I do.
With 36 victories under his belt, George's coach declares him ready for the title shot. Jamaica becomes the stage for the showdown between George Foreman and Joe Frazier. The odds favor Frazier. Fresh from his victory over Ali, the crowd's chants for Frazier fill the air. The fight is a roller coaster. George weathers Frazier's famous left hook, retaliating with bone-crushing body shots. Just as the first round closes, George lands a thunderous uppercut, sending Frazier to the canvas. The bell saves Frazier, but it's the beginning of the end. Round after round, George dominates, repeatedly flooring Frazier. The referee has no choice but to halt the fight. In a moment that stuns the world, George Foreman is crowned the new heavyweight champion. The underdog has become top dog, and boxing history is forever changed. The after-party is a whirlwind of triumph and temptation. George, basking in his victory, is surrounded by adoring fans and eager reporters. Amidst the chaos, a captivating woman catches his eye. In a moment of generosity, George offers Desmond a position as his financial manager, recognizing his friend's talent with numbers. Desmond, surprised but pleased, accepts immediately, discarding his drink at George's insistence. Later, George returns to his room to find the woman from the party waiting for him. Despite his initial hesitation, he succumbs to temptation. The guilt hits him hard afterward, the weight of his infidelity settling uncomfortably on his conscience. The next morning, George's mood sours further as he watches Muhammad Ali taunt him on TV, vowing to throw him back to the ghetto. The words ignite a fire in George's belly. Months pass, and we find George hosting a lavish family gathering at his new mansion. He proudly shows off his car collection to his mother, who's both impressed and bemused by the excess. The family dinner that follows is a study in contrasts. Joy at his daughter's presence, tension with his wife, and his mother's gentle insistence on saying grace. As the meal progresses, news of Mary's pregnancy and Desmond's rock-solid investments add to the celebratory atmosphere. But beneath the surface, trouble brews. Paula answers a phone call, only to discover one of George's mistresses on the line. The confrontation that follows is raw and painful. "I give you everything," George protests.
I was doing just fine before you came along.
Oh, so you don't like this life now? I give you everything.
I don't want everything. I want you.
The scene shifts to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where George prepares to face Ali. The contrast in their reception is stark. Ali is treated like a returning hero, while George faces a wall of hostility. At the hotel, George stumbles upon Ali holding court, his quick wit and sharp tongue reducing the crowd to laughter at George's expense. As Ali's routine reaches its crescendo, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, his hands can't hit what his eyes can't see, George approaches. The room tenses, anticipating his response. The stage is set for a clash not just of fists, but of personalities and wills. George, stoic and determined, brushed off attempts at conversation, leaving his opponent, the charismatic Muhammad Ali, to bask in the adoration of the crowd. Spectators whispered doubts about Ali's chances, remembering Foreman's brutal defeat of Frazier, yet the air crackled with energy as chants of Ali Bomayi echoed through the stadium. As the bell rang, Foreman unleashed his fury, his fists like sledgehammers against Ali's defenses. But the self-proclaimed greatest was no easy target, dancing and weaving, his taunts sharp as his jabs.
That's all you got, George?
Ali's voice rang out, stoking the fires of Foreman's rage. Round after round, Foreman pressed his advantage, pinning Ali against the ropes with relentless force, yet, as the fight wore on, a shift began to occur. Foreman's punches, once lightning fast, began to slow. His breath came in ragged gasps, while Ali remained eerily composed. In the corner, concern etched itself on Doc's face as he watched his fighter's strength ebb away. By the 8th round, the tables had turned dramatically. Ali, seizing his moment, unleashed a flurry of punches that sent the mighty Foreman crashing to the canvas. The crowd erupted, their hero victorious against all odds. In the aftermath of his first defeat, George found himself adrift. He reached out to his wife, hoping to mend their fractured relationship, only to be met with the cold reality of divorce papers. Seeking solace, he turned to his mother, confessing his decision to part ways with his longtime trainers. Desperate to reclaim his former glory, George embarked on a bizarre challenge to fight 5 boxers in a single day. As the event unfolded, none other than Muhammad Ali himself joined the commentary team, his wit as sharp as ever. "Heavyweight champion and world-class clown," the announcer quipped, to which Ali retorted, "Clown? How it don't get hurt now?" As George stepped into the ring, ready to face his first opponent, the crowd's attention was split between the fallen champion's audacious challenge and the magnetic presence of Ali at the commentator's table. The air crackled with anticipation, leaving everyone to wonder, could George Foreman rise from the ashes of defeat, or was this the beginning of a new chapter in boxing history? After his crushing defeat to Muhammad Ali, George finds himself at a crossroads, desperately seeking redemption. In a bold move that leaves spectators astounded, he takes on 5 fighters in a single day, proving his mettle despite the skepticism that surrounds him. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and George soon finds himself racing to the hospital, his pregnant sister's life hanging in the balance. In a moment of raw vulnerability, he offers his own life in exchange for the unborn child's, a prayer that seems to be answered in the most miraculous of ways. The boxing ring, once his domain of glory, becomes a place of struggle. A devastating loss to Jimmy Young pushes George to the brink, both physically and spiritually. In the depths of his despair, he experiences a profound spiritual awakening that reshapes his entire worldview. George's transformation from fierce boxer to devoted preacher is met with skepticism by many, including his longtime mentor, Doc. But George remains steadfast in his newfound faith, even reconciling with his former nemesis, Muhammad Ali, in a touching display of forgiveness and growth. As he builds a new life centered around his faith, George finds love with Mary and establishes his own church. However, his journey is far from over. A failed attempt to help a troubled youth leads him to open a gym, only to face financial ruin due to mismanagement. In a twist of fate, George returns to the ring not for glory, but for survival. His comeback is met with ridicule and doubt, but George perseveres, shedding pounds and rekindling his fighting spirit. His wife's prophetic dream becomes a beacon of hope as he faces younger, stronger opponents. Against all odds, at the age of 45, George Foreman reclaims the heavyweight title in a stunning upset against Michael Moorer. This victory isn't just about boxing, it's a testament to the power of perseverance, faith, and the indomitable human spirit. The film concludes by highlighting the enduring friendship between Foreman and Ali, the recognition of Doc's contributions to boxing, and George's continued commitment to his community through his church and youth center. It's a story that reminds us that it's never too late for a second chance, and that true strength comes not just from physical prowess, but from the courage to change and the willingness to believe in oneself.